sin's going to leap in and take over this situation. God gave him fair warning. But he chose to ignore God and take vengeance on his brother. Now, one of the theories that I agree with, one theory of Bible scholars, is that Cain brought an offering that did not require the shedding of blood. And so his offering was rejected. Now, later on, there are wave offerings, grain offerings. There are offerings from the ground. But at this time, many people believe that they should have brought, this was a sin offering, and that they should have brought something that requires the shedding of blood. I can't prove that, but you can kind of see where that might be headed, can't you? Without the shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin. Without the shedding of blood. Children, number 3, children need to be reassured. Children need to be reassured. 1 John 3, 18 through 21. My little children, keeping with the theme of the children's sermon, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. By this, that's the verse that says people don't care how much you know, they know how much you care. Don't say words, do something. And by this we know that we are of the truth, and shall assure our hearts before him. For if our heart condemns us, God is greater than our heart, and knows all things. Beloved, if our heart does not condemn us, we have confidence toward God. Children need to be reassured. I think one of probably the greatest things that can ever happen is when a child makes his way to a mom or a dad, and all they really want to do, they don't want to talk, they don't want to show them anything. All they do is crawl up into their lap, ball up, and lean against them. It's reassuring to know someone is there for their safety, for their protection. I think this is probably one of the most common struggles. People do not have assurance in their heart that they're saved. Lots and lots of people who go to church every Sunday, try their best to live a good life, say Christian words, probably in all reality have been forgiven of their sins, but the doubt that creeps in, the question that creeps in is, how can God love me when I've done this? And then they fill in the blank. And it may be something that was years ago. The very first Sunday in January, I preached that one of the things we have to overcome is our own past. Friends, if it's forgiven, it's forgotten on God's part. Now, I know you and I do not have the propensity, the capability to forget everything. I'm working on it, though, aren't I, baby? I'm getting better. I forget things that she doesn't want me to forget. But there are things from our past that we prayed and asked God to forgive us, and then our own hearts come back and say, I don't see how God can love me. Look at all the things I've done. We're so missing the point. That's why I believe I love the language of the children and the assurance. It's because God would have us crawl up into his arms like Jesus did that child. It says when he held him in his arms, he was trying to show those disciples the relationship he wanted to have with them. Let's just go back to Hebrews 10:22 real quick. It says there that we are to draw near to God draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from an evil conscience and our bodies washed with pure water. Now, the part obviously that I want us to focus on is with a true heart in full assurance of our faith. Friends, we're not supposed to waver. I'm not saying you never will question, but our Christian faith and our Christian life isn't supposed to just be a wavering back and forth. And by the way, it says if your heart condemns you, I think you have two things here. You either need to let God do a greater work in your heart, or else you need to decide if your heart's telling you the truth. Can I tell you, one of the problems of growing up, children are by nature trusting and all those things I said earlier. When they're children, they're innocent. But the more you lose that innocence, the more you start looking at people with that questioning and doubting. Jeremiah 17:9 says that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? Your heart is deceitful. That means it's a liar. Your heart will lie to you. So if your heart condemns you, God is greater than your heart, because if God has forgiven you, your heart's lying to you. Your heart's asking questions that are irrelevant to God. And I'm telling you, you need to let God do a deeper work in your heart. You need to let God deal with that issue. Bringing up past guilt gets old, man. Woman, people. I say that just like, I go, man. I mean, everybody. Dragging the past out of the muck and the mire gets old to us, and somewhere we ought to say, I'm going to leave that alone. I don't even want to think about it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to bring it up. I don't want to rehearse it. I don't want to go over it and over it and over it and over it and over it. Anybody live there? You got something back there that just won't let go. And God is not your problem. God is not the issue. It's your lying heart. And I'm telling you, God is greater than your heart. And if your heart tells you that you're in compliance with God, if you have the confidence that you are God's child, what a difference it makes.